going to move on to this. It's about Ezra Miller. I've asked the question, can Ezra Miller make an unexpected return as the Flash? And the reason I'm asking this is quite simply because James Gunn has also been out speaking. I don't know what I did there. Look at that. Can I make myself disappear if I go to a certain angle? I don't think I can. James Gunn's been out speaking about The Flash. He's called it one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. Now, I'd normally associate this with sort of, I don't know, what would you call it? There's a word for it, a term. I can't think of it just now. Just political bollocks, if you'd like. Just sort of, what the fuck's it called? Why am I blanking on that phrase? It's doing my nappering, if you'd like. I can't remember, it doesn't matter. But you'd associate it with pandering because of how maybe Ezra Miller associates himself with the world, how he identifies himself, if you like, and the whole sort of minefield that is traversing that question, traversing that sort of argument, that situation. You could say what he's describing it as the greatest superhero movie, one of the greatest superhero movies ever. Has he just blown smoke up his ass, as Stephen was saying a lot last night? If it was anyone other than James Gunn, I would probably suggest that, but James, I think's an honest man. I think he's very straight to the point with his words, much like me, 9 times out of 10, if not 10. And if he says it's one of the greatest superhero movies ever made and he's willing to stick by Ezra Miller through thick and thin, which we'll get into, he may not. It may just be politics being borne out for legal reasons. Then I tend to agree with him if he's saying it, because he doesn't usually chat shit. But as you can see here, this is coming from Variety. It is Variety. After a tumultuous year that involved a series of arrests and public meltdowns, the Flash star Ezra Miller appeared to be a case of one and done in the DC universe. But newly installed DC co-head Peter Safran said the door is open for further collaborations with Miller after the Flash standalone opens on June 16th. I've got to be honest with you, me and Stephen discussed this previously. I never thought this movie would see the light of day. I didn't even think it'd get into the theatres. I had real concerns that Michael Keaton's Batman return would never happen. He appeared in multiple projects. One got cancelled, and this one featured a lead who was losing his mind before our very eyes. He was talking about being a multiversal creature. You couldn't catch him. Then he was getting caught in his home state, breaking into a mansion and drinking alcohol. He was getting restraining orders, getting accused of grooming, violence, all sorts of shit. One of those things would usually be enough to have someone cancelled, and indeed fired by Warner Brothers, who have got previous for firing actors who they disagree with or think are toxic in terms of PR. But it seems like Ezra is a special case. He is a brilliant actor, there's no doubt in my mind he's a brilliant actor. I really enjoyed what he did with Credence Barebones. What is it? That's what he's called. In the Fantastic Beasts movie. And I respect someone who turns up to Comic-Con dressed as a fucking Miss Toad. So you've got to respect the ballsiness of a man. You can't respect some of the things he's done over the last year. But as we'll get into in his defence, the pandemic did rub some people up the wrong way. Some of the more extroverted individuals simply couldn't take the isolation, the sort of restrictions placed on them. And I'm sure a lot of people were in the abyss during the last 2-3 years. I'm absolutely certain of it. And Ezra seems to be certainly one of the victims of isolation in the pandemic. Although he was in pubs drinking and shit like that in Hawaii, so he wasn't really isolated. But look, I'm trying to make excuses for him because I quite like Ezra. And I'm willing him to succeed. But this is what Peter Safran had to say. Ezra is completely committed to their recovery. And of course he is non-binary, so he, I think, identifies as they there. And I'm saying he. I'm going to try and do that, but it's fucking difficult because I don't really associate myself with that sort of stuff. The pronouns, I'm just very much a fucking you, me, them, he, she type of person. It's fucking a weird road for me to traverse and difficult not to put your foot in it like I just did there, despite trying. But we'll try and do it. They're on the right. They're on right now. What is this journey that they're on right now? There we go. Don't ever read a sentence halfway through. That is a recipe for disaster, let me tell you. When the time is right, when they feel that they're ready to have the discussion, we all figure out what the best path forward is. But right now, they are completely focused on their recovery. And in our conversations with them over the last couple of months, it feels like they are making enormous progress. Oh, I'm delighted to see that Ezra is making progress, first and foremost. You don't want to see anyone going through mental sort of torment, having a bit of an episode, manic episode. Maybe he's got manic depression or bipolar or something like that. I'm not a psychologist. They've got a manic episode bipolar. I'm not a psychologist. I'm going to try and get into that, doing it right, because that's how the guy identifies, and ultimately you've got to respect people and their wishes. Glad to see that they have got over it, potentially are in the process of getting over it. And as I said before, fantastic actor, undeniably so. Want to see them making a return to the silver screen, and making a return to the role of Barry Allen, because I always want to say Barry Bannon when I say that, because ultimately you want people to succeed. You don't want people to crash and burn. There's this sort of thing, certainly in the United Kingdom at least, where you build people up and then you love to tear them down piece by piece, and that's not something I've ever really been on board for. I like to see people succeed, talented people succeed, no less. And if what they're saying here about the movie is indeed true, that it's one of the greatest comic book movies, superhero movies ever made, then that's down to their creative processing, whoever was involved in the movie. Initially, I do believe it was 2 directors. They fell out with Ezra. Ezra then gave an ultimatum. I think he had a month, 2 months to come up with a script, and then obviously make that script a reality, to keep his sort of role as the Flash, their role as the Flash. I'm fucking making an arse of this. I really can't. I'm terrible at it. And they obviously succeeded. We got this movie green lit. Michael Keaton came back. Ben Affleck came back. Lots of exciting news about multiple versions of Barry in this movie. And I was pumped for the movie. I was super depressed to see that they had also went off a fucking cliff and were doing all this crazy shit. I even says at one point I'd love to go out and a drink, and they seemed like the type of person you'd have a good night out with. Then it became apparent that there was some serious allegations being made, and I took a step back from those comments. But if it's indeed one of the greatest superhero movies ever made, then you want to see Ezra having the opportunity to build upon that as a foundation, get their shit together, come back, become a successful actor once again, become a fully sort of normalised individual in society, and just build upon this great DCU that obviously fucking James Gunn has created. So to answer the question, can Ezra Miller make an unexpected return as a Flash? I don't think it's unexpected now, because Peter Safran and James Gunn have come out and spoke glowingly of Ezra, spoke even more glowingly of the movie that Ezra has brainchilded and who is a lead of. So I think it's more likely now that if they continue on in their sort of recovery, hopefully with close confidence in their mother still by their side, and hopefully they can indeed return as the Flash. Hopefully they can indeed return as an actor, a successful actor no less. Because look man, those in glass houses shouldn't be throwing stones at other individuals. We've all got our demons, we've all had our sort of lulls and euphoric highs in life. That's what life's all about. It's a roller coaster, as Ronan Keating once sang. So yeah, I can't remember the saying, let those not in glass houses throw the first stone, something like that. I don't fucking know. I hope they can return. That's what I'm saying. And I hope the movie is one of the greatest of all time, because I want to fucking see it. And I want Michael Keaton to be back in a successful Batman movie again. But moving on.